different light. Kind of atmospheric. Two things. I'm on a ship doing this, so as we go further out to sea, I don't know how the broadband will work. And secondly, I'm on the piss tonight. Well, I've been having a few beers because I had the old speckled hen. I'm expecting a rough crossing tonight because it's been kind of stormy, but I'll be all right. So, been a few days since I made a video, and I hope everybody's okay and everybody's keeping well and all that shite. And the first thing I want to do is to address a chap, I'm assuming it's a chap, who left a comment on the last video. And I don't disagree with what the man said. He said that he works with people who've all gotten the needlecraft, and everyone's excited about being back at work, and everyone's excited about having their lives back and all that stuff, and he's seen none of them get sick or anything, and that's okay, that's good, I'm glad to hear that. And that he said there's something about the tribe that they want to almost gloat and hope that people die. Sorry, that's not true. Not my crew. Not this tribe. You may get that with other people, and I don't encourage that. I don't like. I don't think that many of the people who follow me are that kind of individual. They're not basic truthers who are just full of like anger and bitterness at the world. I think they're generally tend to be quite mature, reflective, and very spiritual people, regardless of what they are. So you said that I think it was very unfair, and then you said that the alternative and the conspiracies of the surrounding the Rona were all wrong. I disagree again, and I'll tell you why. At least 4 of them were correct. The first one was the Vax ID passport. I can remember way back in 2020 and well into 2020 that any mention of that was called tinfoil conspiracy theory wackoness by the mainstream media. That came to pass. Another one, us lunatics all said that it's gene therapy, and that was belittled and attacked and put down. And guess what? It's gene therapy. The other one was that we said that the vax wouldn't work, that this whole thing, if it had a 98 to 100% effectiveness, that the media all said it did, and the politicians and bureaucrat, it didn't. That's why you had 2 more and the foghorn leghorn. Pardon my belching. I had a curry as well. And the next one was that they said gene therapy, effectiveness of the first shot, Vax ID, and there was a few others, I'm sure, that all came to pass. That we predicted in the alternative scene, and completely and 100% came to pass. And that's I had 40 today. I can't remember the 4th one, but I'm sure someone will prompt me. And there's many more. So don't be saying that the alternative conspiratorial type people said that certain things about the Rona and they got all of them wrong. No, they got the most fundamental ones right. The impingement on our civil rights through a Vax ID passport, the ineffectiveness of the needlecraft because it wasn't properly tested, and that it was gene therapy. And another one was it had become a new religion of the masses, and this was confirmed with Dr. Robert Malone and his mass formation psychosis. So there's 4, but there's even more than that. So we called it correctly, and that's why a new thing started now amongst the lefty groups. They disseminate the mainstream normie society that no conspiracy theory has ever been known beforehand that wasn't already known. That's bullshit. And that's, if you ever see anybody saying that, they've been fed that by somebody else. Now, that person, I didn't block them or anything like that. They said that. I just politely corrected them. I think they took the comment down, which is fair enough. But, and I'm delighted that you don't know anyone who's got sick or dying. That's not what I'm about. That's not what we're about. We're not gloating here, waiting, you're all going to die. We're not evangelical Christians, singing about, all the sinners will be punished. I was walking through the streets of Belfast today, and you see something up here that you never see down south, is an evangelical singing at a street corner. And the song he was singing, he had a lovely voice actually, was, "Then the flood came down, then the waters rose, and the house of the Lord remained untouched," something like that. Basically saying that, like, if you're on our team, nothing, you'll be saved. No, we're not. We're mostly, most of my followers are pagans, and pagans don't have this divine punishment psychosis. So I certainly don't have that. I don't like that carry on when it happens, and it. Apart from, there's lots of people who've been coerced and forced into the needlecraft through either their job, they had an asshole boss, or they got frightened. The ones who got panicked that they're going to lose their job in the NHS in England and other places like in Germany and Austria and Victoria, and that creature that runs New Zealand. I think Steve Hughes called her like a testicle, a demonic testicle last night. I think that was a very good description. Then fish and shifts, that strange accent. No offense to my New Zealand friends. I'm just saying she's just like one of those things. It's like, I don't like an Irish person. Need something about the accent that accentuate that. But having said all this stuff, having said, the ships start moving. Having said all that stuff, right? This morning when I got up, I went into Sligo town, and I wanted to buy some memory cards, and I went to the CEX, and there was a young girl there, and she looked at me and her face lit up immediately. "Are you Thomas Sheridan?" This kind of thing. And she said, yeah, and her mother was a big fan, and she was too. So a shout out to that. I think she said her name was Andrea, or something like that. Sorry, I forgot your name, but the girl, the sweet girl that works in CEX in Sligo. And hello to your mum for me. And then I got outside then and walked by Tesco's, and then three English women, go, oh my god, it's Tommy Sheridan, Cockney accents. So the three ladies from Southall, I think you said you were from, hello on holiday in Ireland. So that was nice. I had a lovely start to the day. I'm getting more and more noticed everywhere now. It's kind of weird, but but it's always lovely. It's always beautiful and everything, But yeah. So then I go down the train station, and there's the newspaper rack is there. I'm looking at the newspapers, the newsagents, and the local and regional papers were all stories about deaths that were potentially needlecraft related. One was a young sports lad who died, lives not far from me, who tragically, and I'm not making assumptions now, and I don't mean to be disrespectful. I'm just saying this. I'm definitely not making fodder from the suffering of people. So please don't understand that. Everything I do is motivated by love, and I want to help people. Okay, I'm not here. I don't want to get rich from this. There's not no money in it, but other than getting paid for film trips and stuff like that. But which is really, you're gonna have your mind blown by what's coming up. But on BR313, but it's nothing like that. But that's the first thing I thought. You see all these young sports people, dying in their sleep mostly, or on the training pitch, and the only one who voiced the concern with a profile was the former England soccer star Matt Le Tissier. To his credit, he played for England, and I think he played for years with Southampton, I think. And he was a brilliant player too. And he got immediately slagged off by Gary Lineker, that globalist toe rag. I nearly met Gary Lineker years and years ago. There was a dude, always playing Spurs, which was his club. That's his club he's famous for. He played for Leicester too, in Dublin, and Alan Sugar was there, and there was a friendly for charity or something like that. So there was a couple of Spurs stars who showed up for it. There was kind of a reception, and I managed to get into it. in a hotel in Dublin, but raised money for Children's Hospital in Dublin, in Dublin and in London, and it was a great night out. And Bowes won 3-1, and I saw him at like at a distance, but I just don't want. I want to talk to him. I wanted. I was more, Alan Sugar seemed nicer to me, and I love Bobby Robson. He was the former England captain, and he's a fascinating man. He's like a very spiritual individual, and he was slagged off when he was the when Brian Robson. He was slagged off because he was using not Recce, but like fate healing things and stuff like that, and new agey things when he was playing for England. And I think he managed England as well for a while. But him and Gary Lineker were stars for England in the '86 World Cup in Mexico. But I don't know. There was something symbolic about when Ireland were playing England in the 1990 World Cup and Gary Lineker took a shit on the field. It was kind of like, I don't know. It just seemed kind of correct or something. I'm not knocking England fans. There was a great match that I really enjoyed it, but yeah, it was just always something that you can Google that online. And when they're playing Ireland in the World Cup in Italy in 1990 World Cup finals, and Gary Lineker takes a shit on the field, and you see him wiping his hand with his arse, and it's like he's been still wiping the globalist arse with his hand ever since. He's a BBC employee, so he has to play the game. So he's tacked, "Oh, Matt," on Twitter. And that was just the patronising condescension of it, okay? But anyway, and Matt Letitia remained calm, to his credit, and he said, "Gary, this comes from a guy who invented the actual, MRA vaccine, a guy called Robert Malone," and then he all went quiet after that. But he's the only one profile name that I'm aware of that brought it up big time, like in the sports field. He's a star. He was a star back in the day, and again, I don't want to. I'm not capitalising this, but that was the young lad who died in his sleep playing locally from near where I live, playing Australian Rules football down Australia. He died in his sleep, 21 years old. Horror, so fucking. I can't imagine what his poor family is going through. And you have to think, was that what that was? I'm just saying. Then another one was a 61-year-old taxi cab company owner from Dundalk went to get his teeth done in Turkey. A lot of Irish people go to get their teeth done in Romania and Turkey and Hungary and places like that. It's much cheaper than getting it done in Ireland. Dentistry here is incredibly expensive. So it's cheaper to actually fly to Turkey or Budapest or Bucharest and get your teeth done there. And that here, I've a lot of few friends that did that, and they it's just like a quarter the price of what you pay in Ireland for big time dental work. You drop dead on the dentist chair, and the Irish media were trying to make out that it was the dentist who did something malpractice. But to me, the first thing I think of is like deep vein thrombosis. It's not really a short haul flight from Dublin to Istanbul. It's 3 hours, so it's be like equivalent to New York to LA kind of thing, And so poor guy, I should be bastard, I shouldn't say that, but poor guy dropped dead on the thing. So again, that's a suspect. And the final one is that the Deputy Foreign Affairs Editor, a 45-year-old chap who looked from his photograph very healthy, from the Irish Times, dropped dead the other day suddenly. Now, someone has posted a tweet, and I'm not going to say, I don't know for sure it was him, the same surname, and it is an unusual surname. And if it was him, he said, assuming it's him, and this is not putting down, well, we'll just let it. I'll just repeat this. If it was him, what he said was, and this is a tweet he posted last year: if they refuse the vaccination and get sick, no hospital treatment. And if he's got the needlecraft, the foghorn leghorn, and he died because of it. Well, there's a kind of a poetic justice there. Again, if he wasn't needle crafted, and that wasn't him who made that post, I retract that, and he has all my sympathies in the world. So now, one of the reasons I asked the tribe not to be like this is because I got COVID and died. Okay, got COVID and died, and this is going to be a long video tonight. I'm going to have another sup of beer. Cheers. While you put the kettle on, and you might as well, if as long as this continues to work, put a fucking pie in or whatever. You know, it's terrible. But if he did, it's terrible. Now, when the COVID thing first began, the whole, you know, needlecraft thing first was taken off when they had them all coming out. There was loads of stories in the media about fellas or women or people, mostly fellas, who were anti-vaxxers, who didn't take the needlecraft and died. And there were stories that were like, oh, I wish I, you know, on a deathbed they said things like, I wish I'd taken it. Now, I'd be inclined to believe that none of them actually died of the Rona, that they already probably had pre-existing conditions. We know that the Rona is very, very bad for people who have type 2 diabetes. And we know it's very bad for people who are on chemotherapy. I suspect that a friend of mine who I'd met before the booster, who'd been undergoing, I'm getting upset now, who'd been undergoing chemotherapy, had said to me, I'm over the worst now, and we'll be back playing guitar together. And he's in the fucking ground now. Now, he was a lovely man, and he was a good friend, and I hope to God that's not what did it. I hope to God, because we lost a really good guy, and he said to me, Thomas, I can't wait, I'm on the way back, the worst is over, and we'll be playing guitar again soon. Fucking dreadful. So, at the time that these people were dying, allegedly of not being needle crafted, we were subject to all kinds of progressives, atheists, and I trust science and I fucking love science types going laugh out loud, chortle, chortle, fucking morons, Darwinism in action, okay? You should win the Darwin Award, oh, fucking idiot. Where at the same time, when I was pointed out that certain people like for instance, most of the people I know in the tribe want to know what happened to Tiffany Budd in a public event, not because we're hoping she's dead, but we're hoping she's a pretty young girl like that is still alive, or any life, regardless of what age or how they look. And we were subjected to that. And this is leading on to something else, okay, that is of a more of a spiritual nature. There's something about being at sea that has an effect on me. It brings up things from the subconscious. It's very Jungian. But we you know, I'm not going to dance in anyone's grave who took the foghorn leghorn and died. Even if they were pricks, my attitude is a pricks about it, and mocked people like us who abstained. My attitude is it's poetic justice in a funny kind of natural law way, and but only if they mocked people. I have the greatest sympathy for people who have taken as far as the foghorn leghorn, and were coerced into it through their employer, or they're trying to feed their families, and or an asshole boss and that kind of thing. So they've lost all the sympathy in the world for those folks. But they're the ones that should be joining us if they get sick with the baby Cthulhu's inside them. Now, I have no doubt at this point there's a huge amount of denial going on. No doubt. And it's a funny thing, from reading Irish history, one of the reasons you always hear Americans going on about the potato famine like it's a fucking joke, right? Irish people, particularly in rural areas, don't talk about the famine. Not only because the sheer catastrophic loss of life in a short period of time, mainly through disease, I might add, in a country that was producing vast amounts of food that was exported by landlords, all kinds of food. But because things happened during the famine that no one wants to talk about, that haunt the Irish psyche to this day. Cannibalism happened. And I'm not going to judge these people. People died in their own homes, and their neighbours went over and took what little food they had in the place. Dark things happened. People stole land. People stole houses. People stole livestock to try and stay alive, because they were reduced to an animalistic state by what had happened. So, while the Americans are going, sure, the potato famine, and laughing about it left a tremendous pain in the Irish psyche that endures to this day. In fact, one of the reasons that you can't get most Irish people to point of accept that it was genocide is because they're haunted by, they know things probably happened in their family. They prefer the whole thing be forgotten. They went to America, the ones who survived. That's the end of it. They went to England, they went to Canada, they went to Australia. The ones who stayed at home had to rebuild the country. And the ones who stayed at home, no one cared about them. And yet they rebuilt my country up from nothing. And they don't get any credit. It's all about the ones who went to America, somehow amazing. And the ones who actually stayed in Ireland and rebuilt Ireland. No one cares about them, but they were the real heroes of them all. But dark things happened during the worst. They don't call it Black 47 for nothing. Now, I know people out there, as I was saying, are frightened probably. There's a denial thing. I know that within locker rooms and in sports campuses and in football stadiums, and silently agreeing with Matt Letitia, if not publicly, deep inside themselves they're concerned. If not from the baby Cthulhu's clogging up their arteries, then from Craft Philadelphia. If you want to know what I mean by Craft Philadelphia, it's a euphemism for Alcida, A I D S. Okay, that's the code word for that. Craft Philadelphia, and Needlecraft Philadelphia, and I've been reading documents online, and I thought, I have, people. You see, one of the things people don't understand about fuckers like me, who indulge conspiracy, is they think that we read everything and jump onto it because it's conspiracy. No, I take very careful care to actually look at as much things as possible before I nail my colours to any mast. And it doesn't look good, the whole possible breakdown of the immune system for the foghorn leghorn. If you got one or two, you're probably okay. But for the foghorn leghorn, definitely seemed to be the one that's unleashed the Craft Philadelphia. Tiffany, Nurse only had the first one. the initial transubstantiation of the needlecraft. So I know lots of known who has passed away. And that's great. I'm glad you don't have to deal with that pain. I'm glad you don't have to deal with that stuff. But I think it will come to visit you at some point. Not you, but I mean people you know. I think those of us who refused the transubstantiation of the holy needlecraft, I think we don't know how lucky we are. We don't know how lucky we are. Of course, there's all kinds of other things that can take us out, but at least, I mean, they're leaving there. Our organs are not filled with this stuff. Our heritage soup hasn't been changed. I can definitely see a day when people who are up as far as Foghorn are refused entry to gym because they're heart or stroke attack risk, or refused jobs in construction. And what Steaua Bucharest did by banning players who've had the needlecraft. And remember, Steaua Bucharest were our big club. They won. I think it was in '86 or '84. They won the European Cup. That's a very famous club. They're not like a Mickey Mouse thing. And Steaua Bucharest. Remember Georgia Hadji, fucking amazing player. The Maradona, the Carpathians. I'm very romantic about football. I'm very romantic about it. But you're going to see that. You're going to see players are going to be approaching soccer teams, rugby teams, whatever, and they're going to ask them, "Have you been done as far as Foghorn Leghorn?" And they'll say, "No, we're not signing you." But I'm a great player. We're not signing you. We're not going to pay you all this money, pay a fee, and then you drop dead on the field halfway through the season. Tell you what, we'll give you a monthly contract. The days of 4 and 5 year signings are over, or you're not going to play at all. I think that's what we're going to see in the future. I also feel this is why you have these cheaters, these castrati, moving into women's sports. I think that's part of what I'm going to talk about next. Okay, that was one thing. Let me have another beer before I go on to the next thing. This morning, I woke up. I'm convinced this is a spiritual battle more than anything else. This morning, I woke up with. I often have my greatest noetic moments just as I'm in that space between that somnatic space where I'm either waking up or falling asleep. And this morning I woke up with the very strong feeling that all the crap we're dealing with in the world today, is the demons who entered this domain from 911, desperately trying to remain in this domain as the correction of the matrix approaches. You know what I mean by correction of matrix? That like whatever distortion in space-time quantum field happened with 9/11, the global shock, it's now repairing itself and coming back into the original tangent of what it would have been if 9/11 never happened. And this is why I believe in the Mandela effect, and the Dolly's braces one totally proves that to me. Or something like the Mandela effect. Now, these demons have been in this domain. They came rushing through when the second tower fell down, and people all over the world collectively screamed. And it was a smorgasbord of energetic feeding. And they moved into this domain, and they took over people like Jacinta Ardern and all those types, Tony Blair, Justin Trudeau, all those types. George Bush Jr., all the neocons, horrible creatures, Hillary Clinton. And they were feeding in a feeding frenzy, but now that's running out. And they're trying to desperately remain in this domain. And I think that's why more and more Western society looks like the Hieronymus Bosch painting, The Garden of Earthly Delights. If you don't know it, the Hell panel, it was actually on the cover of the original Black Sabbath's Greatest Hits. It's paintings of people being burned in hell, and it's a painting of hell, and it's full of hundreds of naked people, but it's full of distorted, twisted people with like crawling out of arses and stuff like that. And they look like what you see in the world today. They look like the ones who are slagging off people, danced graves by saying, Darwin and Warren, walking, live, dragging a leg. You see that so much now. You see people whose bodies and faces are distorted, young, healthy, young people. Not middle-aged fuckers like me, but young, healthy people who should prime of their life, and they're all twisted. They look like the ones from the garden. That's the demons. The demons are trying to make they're like the Goetian demons. They're trying to make society look so they can remain here like them. And I woke up this morning and that's what the castration is all about. That's what the sexualization of children is all about. That's what all this fluidity is all about. It's all about these demons trying to remain in this domain. And they're destroying humanity so we don't look like human beings anymore. And it's also part of the transhumanist agenda, and it's also part of the genetic needlecraft. And you look at Dr. Fauci, that's not a human being. You look at Gates, it's not a human being. You look at Jacinta Ardern, that's not a human being. And then you go on all these like SJW activists and everything, they're not human beings. I don't know what they are. But it's the demon world distorting them all through an Aggregorian feedback loop where they're made like this by the internet in order to keep the demon feeding on this planet happen. And that's why they're becoming more and more desperate and more in violation of natural law. And these egregores, if you don't know what an egregore is, it was developed by Levy about 200 years ago, the occultist. And he basically said that during times of mass hysteria, you have an entity is developed in another domain. And this entity doesn't even know we exist, but it feeds off our energy. And amazingly today, the Lotus Eaters podcast had a blog article all about that. And I was like, my God. And I've been seeing endless articles lately about these Wictico, demonic, egregorian, Armahin, Steiner type entities in the domains feeding off humanity at the moment. And I have no doubt about it that's exactly what's happening in the world. This is why the world makes no sense. This is why the current egregore hates Russians. So it feeds on the hatred of Russians, and it doesn't even know we exist, but it knows there's something on this domain that it has to encourage, and that's mass hysteria, the current thing, in order to keep itself alive in its own realm. It's like a telepathic manifestation of an egregorian feedback loop. And that's why people today look like they stepped out of those Hieronymus Bosch, I'm a bit slurry now from the drink, Hieronymus Bosch paintings. They're twisted and distorted. These are all the ones that, you see the cartoons and the memes about. It's a spiritual warfare, all of it. All of it. And this is why, was one of the primary reasons now I realize why I told the tribe, I asked the tribe not to dance on the grave of people who took as far as the foghorn leghorn and end up with baby Cthulhu's blocking their heart, or Craft Philadelphia, because that feeds the Aggregor out there. This is not a Christian morality thing. This is simply a desire to stop feeding an entity. This is why we have to maintain a sense of what the Buddhists call Zen. We're aware of all the shit that's going on now. We're aware of all the madness in the world. We're aware of all the psychotics who have the control of things like Twitter and have the ear of the, you want to play in a band, a club, that you have these demonic beasts who can actually tell the promoters who can play and who can't play. And the promoters bottle to them because they're afraid. They have a primal fear. Well, that all ends now, folks. We have to be really straightforward about it. And if you encounter someone who says, ha ha ha, they didn't get vaxxed and they died of COVID, recognize you're dealing with a demon. If you see these arm-wringing, waving lunatics on these atheist, and I fucking love science message boards, calling you names, a demon. When you have newspaper journalists saying that we should refuse people healthcare if they're not needle crafted, demon. When we have Jacinta Ardern go, no, you can't have your life back unless you're vaccinated, demon. Bill Gates and his wife talking about, at the next pandemic even more will die, demon. And someone who wins a swimming competition because they're no good at swimming in their own gender, demon. It's a spiritual war, all of it. And just like Gandalf said in the Battle of Mithras Tirith, let's send these fell beasts back to the abyss.